the field of the helping profession and the wonderful things that we are doing today. So I want to just share some statistics that are pretty kind of not so shocking. I think probably many of you have perhaps experienced this and they've heard this, but they are seeing in the current results the rates of anxiety and depression among the United States adults were 4 times higher in 2020 to 2021 than in previous 2019. Some of these sharpest increases that we're seeing were among males, Asian Americans, young adults, and parents with children in the home, according to the Center for Disease Control and the Prevention data, which is presented for you. So you can see in the reports, and anxiety was between 7.4 to 8.6% was the range of the average month percentages of United States adults reporting symptoms of anxiety in January through December 2019. And the depression was 5.9% to 7.5% from the same time period in January through December of 2019. Fast forward, now we see in April of 2020 we're going through August 2021, the range of the average month percentages of the United States adults reporting symptoms of anxiety have now, once again, 4 times higher, is 28 to 37% for anxiety and 20 to 31% for depression. So many of you may have already experienced this, seen this in your work, that your clients that you're working with, your students that you're working with, maybe even your family members that you're involved with as well. So probably not very shocking. You went through a huge, and we're going through a huge pandemic. But one of the things that we wanted to talk about, and this is where the topic is, the self-care resiliency of where we've been and now where we're going to go. And as we see, and we the importance of self-care and resiliency, for me personally, it got reminded me of the topic of vicarious trauma. And so for those that possibly have heard about vicarious trauma, it is the experiences that happened through working in the working helping profession, right? So it is the regular interactions with trauma, right? So you can see workplace damage that can happen through vicarious trauma. So because we are in the helping professions, and we show what we know as empathy, right? You've heard possibly about empathy, that you're really wanting to connect with your friends, connect with your coworkers, maybe your staff, your clients. So showing that empathy is that you start feeling that same thing. So you may have experienced a higher level of anxiety and depression from people coming into your workplace, and so you start feeling it yourself. And so one of the things that we had to be careful of is the burnout, possibly secondary trauma. And I thought this was an interesting statistic. Up to 85% of helping professionals develop vicarious trauma and or higher rates of traumatic symptoms. And of course, with my field of psychology, 1 out of 5 psychologists report having suicidal thoughts while confronting a personal or professional difficulty. So we look at why this is so important, this discussion today, and we're going to go into some breakout groups looking at some particular questions about how you're working and dealing through this with your organization and also your personal self. But regular interactions with trauma can take a toll on supportive professionals. Self-care is important for healing practitioners to maintain day-to-day health. So some activities we're going to talk about, and we're going to possibly bring in together some resources so that we can help support you in your work and in your field as well. So any of these statistics surprising to some of you?
No.
Well, you probably have seen a lot of this maybe in your work. Yeah. So we have the opportunity, we're going to have some breakouts, and thank you to the board members and also our chairs. They'll be leading the breakout discussion. So in addition to finding ways to keep on going, the first question that they're going to discuss is, how do you also reconcile the feelings of loss that your organization might have had to endure due to the pandemic, and maybe how do you validate that with staff or partners, but also inspire you to work towards perhaps a new opportunities. The second question we can also share is what has been the most challenging in keeping up your morale and your team, right? Morale during this pandemic. And what has worked for you to be resilient in dealing with these challenges that you face? And then what support do you need at this time from maybe the community, from each other, or perhaps the Fullerton Collaborative as well? All right. So I'm going to go ahead and put this in there, and I'm going to create some breakout groups. Right. And within the breakout groups, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to assign you the groups, and you'll have a discussion of about 20 minutes. Leaders will come back, and if you would like, I can post those questions as well again once I get everybody into their breakout groups, and we'll come back at 3 o'clock. Okay. And just give me a moment while I get some group leaders in there. Okay. All right. Right. So welcome once again, everyone, and I hopefully you had, it sounds like some really important discussion, and that I wanted to go ahead and start going around just sharing. We had Tracy and Peter in room number 1. If you could just share some highlights of what came out of your discussion.
Hi, sure, Debbie. So these aren't in any particular order of the questions that we asked, but we kind of took bullet points of what was discussed. And so as far as what really helped during the pandemic was that a lot of us, a lot of the community coordinated recreational activities for adult and youth and for families outdoors that followed COVID-19 protocols. And most importantly, it was free because I know that there was a big economic impact another another thing that we discussed was that spirituality and faith played a huge role in really maintaining positivity and really staying positive during the entire process. A lot of us felt like that we were more connected spiritually than we had in the past. Also helping and volunteering with organizations that needed the support during the pandemic, just because a lot of organizations really lost a lot of, we lost a lot of volunteers during this time, and a lot of us still haven't recovered from that. And so being able to be flexible and volunteer at organizations that we might not typically volunteer with was another opportunity for us to really stay busy during that time.
That sounds great. Great discussion. So 30 more seconds.
And so support groups, a lot of us did in a lot of being in virtual and really taking advantage of Zoom, Teams really offered support groups or offered a huge help, especially with the different community meetings that were taking place throughout the city. And so we were really able to learn from one another great things that could really help us be resilient during this time. And then finally, a big thing was getting vaccinated. A lot of us felt like getting vaccinated was really important and feeling comfortable going out to in-person events, and again, building up that resilience. I believe that covers it all. And
Thanks. Therapy. Okay. Wonderful, Peter. Thank you so much. All right. So we're going to move into Katie and Leanna. You were in group number 2. So tell us, in like 2 minutes about an overview of what came out of your discussion.
Katie, do you want me to do it or you got it?
I think I've got it, Lana, and you can
Okay,
jump in if you'd like. So I think we kind of talked about a variety of things, in terms of, keeping things going. We've been doing kind of some informal surveying to kind of figure out, why maybe people aren't coming back. And it's a myriad of things. Maybe they feel they have too many activities. Maybe they don't feel safe, because of the vaccination status. And some have felt that they've had just more schoolwork to do. In terms of doing resiliency and team morale, we talked about team morale first. We talked about it was really important to acknowledge hours and kind of keep those hours. And so if you are on a set schedule and you're working from 9 to 5, being respectful of those hours and not trying to reach out to someone after 5 for something, because with Zoom and with increased technology, people feel accessible all the time, and that's led to just burnout, right? People feel that they're doing too much. We also found that with the customers that someone or clients someone does have, to really focus on building those relationships and trust with those folks. And so even though you may have less clients that you're serving, it's really important to be critical with those clients. And then someone had shared something that I really liked, kind of talking about a welcome ritual and kind of doing, when you have meetings, starting with a welcome ritual, then do a mindfulness check-in, an engagement activity, and then optimistic closure. And that's really important for meetings because a lot of times we're receiving so much information and it could be a lot of negative information. And so if you're able to kind of check in with your team as you're going along and end on an optimistic note, it seems to be positive for more folks. And Leanna, is there anything else you'd like to add?
No, I think one of the, when we were talking about helping the maintaining trust in the relationships, for within the school and within our business and different models, maybe not being so focused on benchmarks right now and making sure everything's performed perfectly, but making sure the morale and the mental health and the relationships are there first in order to ensure longevity. So you might have to switch your focus a little bit in order to take care of what needs to be there now.
So important things. Thank you for sharing that. All right, so we're going to move into our next group. And as we move into our discussion that Carl and Barry did in their group, just if you have any resources that came out of it, go ahead and pop it into the chat as well. So Carl or Barry, do you want to take the lead on the next?
Go ahead, Barry.
I can start. So we had Carl and Victoria from high school district. We had 3 Cal State Fullerton students, so we had a lot of focus on the schools. And I think some of the suggestions, we focused on what we could do to address the morale, what was going on with morale, acknowledging with the team that it's hard, and taking some of the pressure off that was mentioned before. Also discussions around, understanding that it's important to check in and not just go on, but check in with people on a more regular basis. How are they doing? Are there changes going on in the home that might be impacting what's going on in school? We also heard from some other groups talking about the need for grace and understanding in this environment and taking time to celebrate small victories, both of staff and clients, and support those who had a loss. Don't forget that. If someone lost a loved one, a family member, acknowledge it, see how they're doing. One of the organizations talked about an engagement committee that comes together quarterly and brings staff together. One of the things we asked at the end was, what are the needs? Kelly reminded us, and I think it was at the last meeting also, there's a need for advocates around the IEAP for foster youth or children that don't have adults to help them through that process. So I wanted to bring that up again. I don't know, is there anybody else in our group, or Carl, do you want to add anything?
Well, that was great, Barry. Thank you.
Okay.
Well, thank you, Carl and Barry. Now, the last group we had was with Helene and Jay. If either one of you wanted to share a summary of what came out of your discussion.
This is Helene. I took some notes so I can start out for us. For the first question, we had several volunteer organizations represented in our group, and so one of the items that came up was really taking care of your own volunteers who maybe aren't ready or able to come back, and just connecting with them by delivering gifts to their home. And that's so positive because it's really all about the connections, and connections were so important for people who felt isolated and maybe who are still feeling isolated. And for some people being serviced by volunteers such as Meals on Wheels, that delivery or that contact was really the only contact they had in person with people. And also in that same question, the idea of people feeling liberty and maybe getting fired up because they were able to work outside of their normal hours and serve people. And then with our second question related to morale, that virtual did mean that lack of in-person connection and having to scale back on certain resources. Having a sense of purpose really helped because it means that what you're doing means something. But on the other hand, people wanted to feel safe, which is a caution. And then another kind of hindrance to morale was feeling overwhelmed by the COVID requirements. And then also what helped with morale is we all have customers, whether they're little people or people who come into a store, and so having happy customers. And then number 3, working through challenges. Exercise helped with that, staying in touch with people, maybe reopening relationships, going out to restaurants, such as outdoor venues, phone calls. We talked about the importance of handwritten notes, supporting others. And then people did a lot of decluttering and making donations, which was really nice. So you want to definitely check out the thrift shop that the Assistance League of Fullerton runs. And I believe tomorrow is when they're launching all their Christmas goodies and holiday items. So that's really exciting. And then just what support we need finally is realizing those that have we've taken granted for, and really making sure we stay in connection. And then there's so many laws and regulations, so making sure we really know who is an authority and who's there to support. And if you're in opposition to something that's happening, making sure you get to the right people. And that was kind of it. Jay, I know I just talked. Is there anything you want to add, or maybe anything from our group?
No, I think that was perfect. Thank you, Helene.
All All right, thanks.
Wow, what a wonderful, wonderful resources and discussion. It seemed really important. And thank you for sharing that as well. And for our group leaders, our board members, for all of that you do for us as well. So as we're thinking about moving forward, and we're going to be doing a breakout, not a breakout, a discussion around the committees and how they're doing. I just want to highlight and just remind you of the self-care wheel. This is important as we look at our own self-care. And I often tell my students, and there are a few in here as well today, but when you have your will, are you having a centered will, or does your wheel, like when you put your wheels on your car, is it kind of a little bit deflated or flat in a specific area? So if so, how can we help support, or what can you do to support what aspect of that wheel that is needed? So are you going around going ba-dum, you know, kind of getting caught up into some kind of challenges? So maybe some physical, psychological, emotional, spiritual, personal, and professional. And it seemed like as you were sharing the resources in your groups, they kind of all fit within that wheel as well. So I encourage you to look at that for yourself, in addition to your also your clients, your students, your coworkers as well. And then I also wanted to highlight the information from your psychological PPE, and my computer is going really slow. Is to promote mental health and well-being. So this is provided, thank you, Barry Ross, for sending this over. This is from the Institute of Health Care Improvement, and things to look at to promote mental health and well-being based on the published literature and the experience of health systems. So this may be a resource that might be beneficial for you as you look at how you can help support yourself individually and also as a team leader as well. Barry, do you have anything else to add on that?
Well, I just think it's really important that if we lead others in any way, that we have to take care of ourselves first. That's why this individual section is there. If we don't take care of ourselves, we can't take care of other people. And so I think we need to look at what we can do to help us be resilient so that we can help our teams. And that's why this is designed this way. That's all.
Absolutely. So thank you for sharing that. You are the tool. You are the instrument. If a surgeon was going into surgery, they want to make sure that their instrument is clean and, you know, taken care of. You are that tool. So please do take care of yourself during this critical time. And as we said, 4 times more likely of depression, anxiety in our system, in our world. And I see a lot of things coming up in their schools. And so we want to make sure that we're taking care of the teachers and also the staff as well in all of our fields. All right, so let's go ahead as we move into committee reports. We can find out a little bit what's going on in the different areas. So the next gen, I don't see Christian here, Bev. Are you able to share?
Yes, yeah,
Okay.
I can share what I actually missed the last meeting, but we have been working with our partners on sharing information mostly about mental health these days and how we can help our next gen folks in tackling the issues and what they're going through. Part of what we are doing as a committee is working with our intern and possibly bringing on a student voice or trying to get a student voice onto our committee and figuring out how we can do that, because obviously for next gen, we want to listen to those students that are out there. So we have some ideas and we're going to be talking with people like Carl on how we could make this happen going forward by bringing voices from our youth to find out what's important to them, what is it that they need. We would like to plan in 2022 a forum of some sort, whether it be social emotional health, whether it be helping our students navigate to the next step in what they've got going on. So whether it be from high school to college or to career or to what have you. But instead of us coming up with this is what we think our kids need or our youth needs, really getting a student voice. So I think that's going to be our focus over the next couple of months, is to really go out there and to build that with our partners.
Thank you, Beth. That's wonderful. And I what's the next meeting? Do you have that on your calendar?
Yes, thank you. January 4th is our next meeting. Right now, it's still scheduled for Zoom. I don't think we have decided on if we're going to go in person yet for that meeting or not. It seems to work on Zoom just because everyone's busy and everyone, it does save you some commute time. So.
Absolutely. Great. All right. So put that on your calendar. Excellent. And then you can email Christian if you want more information or for that Zoom link, he sends that out.
Okay.
And that email is listed there as well. Thank you, Bev. And see, Barry, rather Trang, do you have it's not education. I don't know. I need to change a slide. Early childhood subcommittee. Can you provide us an update?
Sure, thank you. I think those of you who have heard me speak before, we are focusing on 3 different areas. One is quality education, the second is resilient families, and the third area that we're focusing on is health and development. And under the area of mental health, our group that's focusing on the resilient families is putting together a survey, and we want to survey our children, our families with young children. And we want to ask them about any possible concerns that they have about the impact of the coronavirus pandemic on their child's mental health. And then what concerns do they have about mental health and well-being of the child in your care? What are those concerns? And do you know where to look for advice, resources, and information? And what areas would they like to have some assistance in? And where do they usually go for information to support them at this time? So based on the results of this survey, we are going to provide 4 workshops targeting those identified needs. And so the workshops could be about mental health stigma, accessing resources, how to build positive relationships or positive parenting. And again, based on those identified topics, we may partner with Help Me Grow, Startwell, Reimagine OC, St. Jude's, Western Youth Alliance, Western Youth Service, Priority Center, School Readiness, of course, Fullerton School District to provide the workshops. And again, based upon the results of the survey, we're going to determine what's the best way to deliver these workshops. Should we do it via Zoom, in person, should it be recorded? So we're looking for the biggest impact on our families. Where do they get this information and how do we get it to them based upon this survey? So thank you.
Excellent. Excellent. Thank you so much. And I have November 30th. Is that correct still? For the next meeting at 3 o'clock. It's still virtual, correct?
Still virtual. Please come and join us. We'd love to see you. Email me, or in the chat, write your email and I'll be happy to send you an invitation.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Thank you. And then our next discussion will be around homelessness and the task force. Jason's not able to join us today, but Kelly, can you provide us?
Well, I'll announce our next meeting. It's going to be November 16th, 12:30. It's going to be both Zoom and in person. So whatever you feel comfortable with, it'll be here at our Fullerton main library. So I think it will be a really important meeting and getting everybody up to speed on what's been going on. Then right after our next meeting, we will be having a meeting on December 9th at 1 p.m. with all the churches to really start getting a resource list together and re-establishing what our goals are as a committee. So we're quite excited over that. I'm probably the only one excited over a meeting. So sorry, that's the government geek in me. And what's interesting at that date is that night at the city council meeting, I will be giving a presentation to city council regarding on homelessness issues, update, and funding. So it'll be a day of homelessness for me.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that information. Very important stuff that's going on. So definitely email Jason and Kelly. Thank you for your update and for things that are happening. And definitely regarding mental health, there is a correlation with that, right? So we are supporting that along with the housing element as well. So come and join them in that component. And then our Move More Healthy, our health and wellness subcommittee. Peter and Tracy are I put chairs along with myself. We help really work together to make a difference and an impact in the city. One of the things before I turn it over to Peter for an update about the fall into fitness and everything else that's going on, I do want to highlight that the Move More Healthy subcommittee has put together some ideas around a strategic plan utilizing the 2030 healthy people goal. And we've actually identified different areas. And if you're interested in being part of that discussion, please join us on our next meeting. In regards particularly around health and wellness, we do have a discussion and really important things that are happening in our community around health and wellness. And we are working with our leaders to make an impact in that as well. We are working with the school districts with regards to supporting their needs and also some of the resources that we have going on in our community. Peter, do you want to just share with you? I'm going to go ahead and also just put the date, Wednesday, December 1st. It's a different date. It's because of the holidays. We've moved it to the first Wednesday in December. If you wanted to join us, you could email me and I'll make sure to get you the Zoom link. And Peter, if you want to give us an update about fall into fitness and
Of course. So as you all may recall, at the beginning of September, kind of to build off of the momentum that and the success that we had with our Summer Steps Challenge, we continued our focus in physical activity during the pandemic. And so we launched our Fall into Fitness at the beginning of September to continue to promote with the community, making a commitment to physical activity for adults participating in 30 minutes of physical activity a day, and for youth, 60 minutes of physical activity a day. So I wanted to provide an update based on the in-person and in virtual events that we've had with the challenge, and also how many commitments have been made from the residents of the city of Fullerton. So during the past 2 months, Move More Eat Healthy has been out in the community and also virtually participated in 18 different community events. Of those 18 events, we've had a total of 1,494 participants. But keep in mind, this also includes in virtual, so it's not all in person. And of those approximately 1,500 participants, we've had 539 people make a healthy commitment to prioritize physical activity during the fall. And so if any of you are interested in having Move More Eat Healthy promote our Fall into Fitness Challenge, whether it's at an in-virtual meeting or an in-person event, just know that we are flexible and available and will participate in any event that is potentially open to us engaging in. Does anyone have any questions? I know last month I presented the updated flyer, and so there is ways where people can join the challenge in a virtual format. So we've developed a QR code in English and Spanish for people to be able to make the commitment virtually, which I can also share in the chat box before the meeting ends. Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Peter. And talking about meeting ending, we are we have 2 more minutes left, or actually 1.5 minutes. So I'm putting in here, I believe this Dropbox, let me know if it doesn't work. It has resources and events that's happening in our city. Please, if you do have an event, put it in the chat here so that everybody could see that. We will be also streaming this and putting it on our Facebook page as well. I do want to also highlight a few things moving forward. And first off, we are doing the spotlights of you, the members and the membership. So we have Madison. You can see Madison on one of your boxes on the screen here. She is our intern helping us out from Troy High School, and she has been amazing. She will work with you and your organization to make sure they have some kind of a really cool graphic to put on all of our social media, and also to have you tweet and retweet and all that stuff. But in order to do that, we need your support by putting in the information so you can get started. So Madison, if you want to go ahead and put that in the chat as well. There are some great things coming your way, so make sure to follow us on Facebook, follow us on Instagram and Twitter, all of those wonderful social media outlets. And most importantly, I hope that we can help support you and your work as well. So thank you, Madison, for your work and your support over the last few months as well. And any other
Oh, Debbie, I did want to add one more thing. Last weekend, Move More Eat Healthy was at the Pumpkin Run 5K from OC United. So I do want to thank Jay for that invitation. We were able to obtain a lot of participant and commitment goals during that event. So just to highlight the success of the event.
That's excellent. Thank you. Great. So I'm seeing some great things. Father Dennis, to remind us about the monthly interfaith prayer service on November 9th via Zoom. That information is posted in the chat, along with the FAFSA financial aid window is now open, as is the window for applying to Cal State. So those are really important as you're working with our youth, trying to bridge them into some success in education as well. All right, so thank you for those reminders. I believe Brenda's here. She has information about a great opportunity. I'll put it in the chat as well, providing a support for advocates and someone to help support youth. And Christmas Fatigue Assistant League starts tomorrow. Yes, Marilyn, excellent, thank you. And she put the address in the chat as well. Perfect, and they keep on coming in, so keep on coming in the chat, so keep an eye on that. I do want to remind you, our next meeting is December 13th at 2:30. We are going to be virtual again, and networking will begin at 2. We are planning, potentially we're actually resuming our in-person meeting come January, so please be on the lookout. We will also be streaming that via Facebook, but it will be in person, so that might be something of interest to you. But December 13th is a virtual meeting. Well, perfect. Anything else, Leanna? Do you want to?
I don't think so. I think we got everything taken care of today. It was so great seeing everybody. And again, if you know anybody that would love to join us, please invite them to come to our December meeting. And I will really look forward to seeing all of you in person in January. And it's great to see everybody's faces on Zoom, but I do miss seeing everybody in person. So it would be great to go back to that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And we will be able to hang out just for a few more minutes afterwards, but we're going to go ahead and stop the recording. And I really appreciate you as well. Thanks, Leanna.